Can I get all of you to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the DRB. We start off our meeting with the introduction of the board members, and we'll start off to my left.
Good evening. I'm Perry Mason. I live in Hopewell Plantation.
I'm Tim Bryan. I have a business in Crabapple.
I'm Marty Littleton. I live on Freemanville Road.
I'm Ed Parsons. I live on Red Road.
Laura Weissong. I live in Crooked Creek.
At this point, we ask for an approval of the agenda, but we have some changes on the agenda we would like to make.
Mr. Chair, I would like to request that we move up RZ 15025 towards the top, please.
Okay, so, that's D. Okay, that one's there. You got that at the top? Okay. Angela, the order that I'd like to have them be in, if that's okay with you, is V15-031 is B, the first one will be A. RZ 15025 will be B. And High Grove will be C, which is V15-30. And D will be Crabapple Townhomes, Arnold Mill. And I would like to make the request that we would do, I guess, do we have to vote on this? To move it from, I want to move courtesy reviews up before the final reviews.
And you're going to keep the demo where it is?
Keep the demo where it is.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. I will try to keep this straight with all my chicken scratch here. Okay. Can I get someone to make an motion for the approval of the October 6th DRB meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the October 6th DRB meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion for approval of the October 13th special call DRB meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the October 13th special call DRB meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's get on down to demos. 795 Hickory Flat Road. Hardy Smith. Come on down, Hardy. Come on down. How are you?
Good. How are we doing?
We're good.
My name is Hardy Smith. My address is 101 Morgan Lane, Canton, Georgia.
Have you already met with our arborist?
No,
Okay.
but there's no trees in the demo area that we proposed to demo. There's a couple trees on the site, but it's not going to be in the area where we're demoing the house.
Have you already located the septic tank?
Yes.
Mark, have you seen this property, know anything about the property?
I am familiar with the property. They've already done some cleaning out there. They've stayed away from the existing trees, and the trees, existing trees, are outside the tree save area here. We will do a pre-demo visit out there with them, make sure that everything's, fencing is in place, none of the trees are disturbed.
Okay. Any questions by the board? How about you, Mr. Architect?
Well, usually the board just asks the applicant for a reference what their proposed future use might be of the property.
I hadn't got there yet.
Okay.
What is your proposed use?
It's residential. We're going to build, it's actually 2 acres. We're splitting it into 2 lots. Going to build 2 homes.
Okay. All right, and so I guess at the next point, when he gets his land disturbance permit, he'll come to you, Mark, for,
That is correct.
okay? All right.
What's the timeline for the construction?
It's going to take, first of the year, we want to go ahead and demo the house, but it'll probably be, start one in January.
Okay, our general purpose in our demo permits, when we issue these are, you know, came to our attention, the city's attention, that we had a lot of buildings that we were issuing permits to tear down, and they would leave rubbish and different things around on the property. The house would be gone, but you'd see bricks and those kinds of things. All we're looking for is a graded surface and throw some grass seed out on it and make it look where it looks like a field as best you can.
Right, that's what you'll have. We haul everything off.
Good.
We'll grade it and grass it.
Okay, that's what we're looking for, looking for it to be clean. Okay, any other questions? Do we have any questions in the public comment section? If not, can I get someone to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the demo for 795 Hickory Flat Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a wonderful trip home.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we've moved the city of Howell, Crabapple to the end of the line. We're going to start with our courtesy reviews. The first courtesy review to be heard will be V15-31. That is 1060 Birmingham Road. Mr. Brian Smith.
Good evening. My name is Brian Smith, and I reside at 1060 Birmingham Road in Milton. I do want to, first of all, thank the members of the board for adjusting the agenda. I appreciate it. I do want to make one slight correction to the description on the agenda. The structure is to be closer than 100 feet to the west property line, but not the east property line. To briefly describe the project, we have an existing shed on the structure that we plan to incorporate into an expanded structure. We're going to alter the roof line of the existing structure and then also add horse stalls, basically. So the addition of the structure will cause that side of the structure to be within 100 feet of the west property line.
Okay, and you have, after that, you have the power lines.
There is a utility right of way, followed by the shopping center at Birmingham Crossroads. So there are
Okay.
no residents to be impacted on the other side.
Okay. Any questions?
Isn't the wooded area to the, I guess, to our left on the map, is that, that's a wooded area that they have the septic drain field there, isn't it? So it's like, they're never going to do anything with those trees, right?
I'm not 100% sure which wooded area you're speaking of.
On the other side of the power lines.
Oh, right. My understanding is, I'm not 100% sure the details of that shopping center, but it is an undisturbed buffer, and the septic field may be there.
Yeah, I think that's where the drip field
believe
is.
so.
So I don't think there's any chance there's ever going to be any buildings proposed on that side of it that would.
And you're only
Impacted.
asking for 15 feet, right? I mean, really, it's what you're
That's
budgeting.
an approximation. I can tell you now that we do have a riding ring in between the proposed extension and the property line. That's 20 meters wide, which would be about 66 feet. The ring does not directly abut the property line, so there's 5 to 10 feet on the other side of that.
Okay.
Then it also won't go directly up to the ring on the side, so I'm guessing about 85 feet from the property line.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the public or comment? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
Well, this is a
Ms. Courtesy, sorry.
So any comments?
I don't have any. I mean, obviously, there's, I don't know what the easement size of the utility is, but it's going to be what? It's going to exceed the 100 feet if you add that to it.
Is that going to be considered on the side of the house, and is it permitted on the side of the house? Do you know?
Well, the current barn right now is at the rear of the house on the left-hand side, so
Right.
I would have to say it would be considered the rear of the house, wouldn't you, Bob?
The barn can go front, side, or rear.
Oh, it can't
You
go
can
side.
place it
okay.
any way you want.
All right.
But
Okay.
currently, the existing one, I would say, is in the rear.
Right.
Well, without any, I don't have any comment to add other than goodwill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.
fine.
Okay, the next one we have is going to be RZ 15-025. That's 13321 Deerfield Parkway, North Park Estates.
Thanks. My name's Carl Westmoreland. My address is 3343 Peachtree Road. Representing Inwood Holdings, Portalamus is representative Inwood and is here. This must be one of the more unusual matters that you'll have on your agenda because we don't plan to do anything. There are no exterior changes proposed. The North Park apartments on Deerfield Parkway were approved under Fulton County zoning in 1984. They were built in 1997. Inwood has them under contract to purchase. One of the conditions of the lender was that they'd be taken out of their current non-conforming situation. As you know, under Milton's rules, or just about any jurisdiction's rules, that limits the ability to rebuild if there's a partial destruction, and that was a situation that the lender was unwilling to accept. So we have simply filed to rezone from the T5 limited classification into the apartment conditions as they were in Fulton County, no additional variances, nothing else. We've also agreed, and this will maybe be more relevant when we get to council, that the property would not be redeveloped under that. If it's ever redeveloped, it's got to come back with a classification that's adopted by Milton. So this is not to allow any changes. It will allow the sale. It will allow Inwood to spend almost $3 million on interior improvements to the units, but otherwise nothing changes. So. Again, Mr. Lummis is here if you've got questions for him, but that's the reason we're going through this exercise.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any questions from the board?
Any comments? No? Okay.
Any comments from the public? Then I would have to say go in peace. Next on our agenda is V15-30, which is 15140 High Grove Road, Wood Valley. Ms. Lisa Carlisle. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lisa Carlisle. I reside at 15140 High Grove Road, mailing address Alpharetta, Georgia, which we all know is actually Milton, 3004. We built our home in the Wood Valley subdivision in 1992 when we were unincorporated Fulton County. In 1995, we built a shed on the side of our home, and said shed is now not in the best condition, and we would like to tear it down and replace it with a single-car garage. Our neighbors on either side are very much in favor of that, as we have a 1995 pickup truck that is visible from the road when you go by our house. And by doing this, we'll be able to replace our lawn equipment into this garage, single-car garage, and park our red truck so it will no longer be visible from the road.
But I like trucks.
Well, we do too.
Okay, so have you gotten anything from your neighbors that this would be affecting? Anything from them that would indicate their willingness or being pro you building onto this side to go into the setback?
Yeah, both of them said they didn't have a problem with it, and I have an actual text from my neighbor that you cannot actually see it unless you're literally, because of the way our home has a slight northeastern facing and the way the curvature of the road is, you can actually only see this because of the landscaping if you're right square in front of our garage. So only the neighbors directly to the side can see it. And originally we actually wanted to do a two-car garage, but when we had the neighbor come over, when we realized that the setback had changed from what it had been with unincorporated Fulton County, she at first said fine, but then she later sent me a text and said, I think my whole house may be in violation of that. So I think it would be better if you just did the one-car garage, and instead of trying to do 24 feet or 26 feet, do only 20 feet. Mm-hmm. And so we were fine with that. Their plans are to move in 2 years to Colorado. So.
Okay. What is the setback currently?
From the house, it's the structure.
From your property I was asking Angela, but Angela, do you know what the setback rule was for Fulton County at the time she bought the house? And
It is and always has been 25 feet.
it's always been 25 feet?
Yes.
So she's wanting to encroach by 11 feet?
She's asking for 14, so yeah.
Okay. So this is just a review, and the affected parties, I mean, you bought this property, I'm assuming that the setback was the same at the time she bought it? Or has it been, have we increased the setback?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so it's the same setback. I would say as long as you've got the approval of your neighbors that are directly affected by your encroaching on that variance, or I mean that setback, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it, but I think it would require having something in writing from your neighbors, or have your neighbors come to, because you'll have to apply for a variance, isn't that right?
She has, that's why she's here, yeah.
Okay. So my recommendation to you to carry forward with is to have letters or have your neighbors that are directly involved, to have them come to the meeting with you and support your position. Because from a technical standpoint, 25 feet is 25 feet. And we're not supposed to allow you to build within 25 feet unless you can show a hardship to do it, I guess. And so with that being said, it's not that it has not been done, but you need to have the support. Because what happens is that all of you have the 25-foot setback. So if we let you build in 11 feet into your setback, and your next door neighbor wants to come in and build into their setback, but they don't have a good reason, then they bring you up because we let you do it. What was the reason? And so what we really try to do is to have it be where the neighbor that's directly affected is the most important person that you need to bring to get their
Okay.
approval, which is the person that has to see it. If you're in a neighborhood and you are, so the neighborhood association, you're going to have to let your neighbors know and make sure that they're okay with it.
Okay, now I have had a sign posted for 30 days in front of my yard.
Okay.
And I sent a picture to the variance people.
And
so-
I'll tell you, if nobody complains about that and they've seen the sign, I mean, we don't approve that here at this board. But the only recommendation, the strong recommendation I have is to get to support as many of your neighbors as you possibly can. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's what you have to do in order to make it happen. So I wish you well and hope you're successful at putting your red truck in the garage.
Okay.
And any other comments from anybody on the board?
No, I just the one neighbor, just get a letter from the one neighbor next to it,
Okay,
next to you.
because it's going to look a lot better than what's there right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we did actually have the city arborist come out because we had another area where we wanted to remove a tree, and just as a precaution, and he also saw it as well and agreed it was the right solution.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at some alternatives, but the alternative would require removing a very large old tree, and we did not want to do that. So this was our only
Right.
option.
I don't want you to think that I thought it was a bad idea. I just know that it's going to come up, that you're going to have that neighbor either be in the audience or write something in favor.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
And if I had known that ahead of time, I would have had her do that.
Well, guess what? That's part of the process. Part of the process we get to tell you as we go along, and since our vote doesn't count, I mean, we're not voting on this directly. We're here just to give you advice and to help you move on down the line.
When you go to the BZA, that's
Yeah.
when you're going to want the letter.
Okay, and okay.
That's the
Is there
next
someone
Your
that
next
will-
meeting you go to, the Board of Zoning Appeals, that's when you should show up with the letters from that neighbor saying she's good with it.
Okay.
Not a text, a
Okay.
letter.
All right.
All right.
Thank you much. Good night. Next, we have Crabapple Townhomes, Arnold Mill, Green, Cowart Residential.
Hello, I'm Georgia Erickson with Main Street Design, representing Cowart Residential. My living address is 325 Angelica Way, Alpharetta, Georgia. We're presenting Crabapple townhouses, and they are located. Actually, do we have a screen that we can put them up on, or you all have plans? Okay. Not a PowerPoint. Oh, okay. You didn't have us. I thought maybe you had a projector screen.
Good. You've got this.
this.
Oh, okay.
We've got
Okay.
that right there.
Okay. Well, if we flip through it, to the first sheet, you'll see a perspective of the proposed townhouses. They are in farmhouse-style design, and what you see in front of it is a courtyard wall. And what that courtyard wall is it serves two purposes. One is to protect the residents that are up against the main street that is Arnold Mill Road, and so that they can have a little bit of safety because that is such a high volume traffic area. And we were concerned that those houses would not have the precautions needed if they had either pets or children. So in that courtyard, it's a garden area for the residents. It will have trees and landscaping. Outside, it will also have a sidewalk for pedestrians, trees and landscaping as well. The courtyard has what you call a pierce wall design. And I think on the third or fourth sheet, you'll see an actual CAD drawing. And what that represents is a brick wall that actually you can see through. So it's a staggered brick pattern that every other brick is actually missing a link so that you can actually see through it. And the reason why we decided to go with this design was it also allows light in for the planting on both sides. It gives a little bit of softer feel, and it is just more visually appealing. The wall is not high. It is, I think, 42 inches in height, and so you would be able to, any adult would be able to stand and see well clearly over it. But it does protect small dogs and children from being able to jump over it. And then occasionally you'll see the entrance gates, which are going to be made out of wood, and also in farmhouse design style with stained exteriors. Let me see what else. The courtyard wall also, if you go to the side elevation, it ties into the townhouse structure itself. It will have the same brick color for that building, and it will also tie into the water table that surrounds the perimeter of the townhouse structure.
One of the things that was noted on the rendering doesn't line up with the floor plans.
Okay. The floor plans there's two designs to the floor plans. Actually, there's four in that community. Two of them are for the ABC buildings, which would be the buildings that go across the Arnold Mill Road. And the exterior ones have a bump out that shows the stairs projecting. So the two end units of a 3-unit building would have that stair projection. And then if you flip further into the set, you'll see a townhouse that actually has straight party wall lines. And those are interior units. So we actually have a similar design for the interior buildings, but the difference is the exterior buildings facing Arnold Mill are private or quiet spaces, which would be the master bedroom, the great room. They will all face the community side. The other, okay. And then the other side, so lot numbers 18 all the way up to 35, those would actually have their living spaces more towards the green space side of the forest that's behind the community. So it means the living room, the great room, the master bedroom will all be on the back side of the house. Plans D and E, yeah. It's a little confusing because there's really two different designs for the interior units and then two different designs for the exterior units.
On both the renderings you have here, you're showing a 3-window porch, but on the floor plan, it actually shows it as 2.
Okay, let's see. ABC, now the ABC this is the one with the garage side. That's the back side of the structure. And then the ABC on the let's see, courtyard side. Actually, no, it would be this one. It has a door and 2 windows. Let's see, and then the 3, 4. Depending on the elevation, the placement of the great room and should I go back to this one page? The placement of the great room windows and doors, like this one that's shown on the floor plan, is actually not shown in the elevation, like you said. So you are correct. That is a little variation. But what we're going to have is we're going to have 6 elevations total. This only shows 3 of them. The 6 elevations, there's going to be additional elevations that have a 2-story porch on the 2nd and 3rd level. And then there's going to be some of them with bay windows as well added.
Georgia,
Yeah.
I'd like to recommend that it's not real clear to us, looking at this presentation, exactly how this is going to lay out.
Okay.
And
okay.
so what I would like to request is you meet with the city architect and make sure that we have it lined up the way that it's supposed to be, that we know exactly which building is going to which slot, and the floor plan to match the actual outside. The other thing is a little bit more definition on terms of the way the wall is going to be built. Or,
photos or something.
right, something, for example, that wall reminiscent of me of Oriental, North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina, Savannah. A lot of those walls were built, but they were built with cotton mill type construction where they didn't mortise their joints. In other words, they didn't clean up joints, they took their rough finish, which might add a good look to it, but we need a little bit more definition as to what it's going to be like.
Okay. A better rendering.
Yeah, but where everything is lined up, where you can know exactly when somebody asks you a question about a particular thing, you can go right to it and you know exactly that, because it's really difficult for us to pass judgment if we don't know, and it's like, well, maybe it's this way and maybe it's not.
On this, where you showed us right here, D, E, and F, see how it shows a 3-window porch?
Right.
Doesn't show the French doors, shows it as a 3, but when you go to this floor plan right here, it shows it as a 2.
Okay.
A 2-window porch, and I don't think the 2-window porch would look strange on the front.
Our actually purpose of today's meeting was not so much to review the architecture today. It was more of just proposing the courtyard wall.
Okay.
We will, though, when we actually do the architectural review, we will correct all these items and make sure it's a little bit more clearly listed. We'll go line item by line item on each and every elevation with the coordinating floor plans and elevations.
And Bob, for our area, what do you think about the wall? About the wall being, instead of being finished off, having the rough mortise?
Well, this area of Ronald Mill is in the rural character area listed in our comp plan.
Right.
So the applicant did come in and requested this brick wall along Ronald Mill, and I could see the reasoning behind it. I mean, it's a heavily trafficked road, and they're looking for some security and some privacy. But normally, we would do a 4-board horse fence. So our recommendation to the applicant was bring it to you all as a courtesy to kind of get a feeling for, what the board's thoughts would be for for this kind of a screening or wall.
And I think the idea of the wall is a really good idea. I want to see it tied in to the buildings, and there's a lot to it other than just the simple style of the wall. It's going to be exactly how it's built, and how you're going to cap the columns, and
because normally you would allow brick piers, and you can do 4-board horse fencing in between the piers. In this case, they're looking to do a different type of screening. Some of the questions that were coming up that I want to bring to the board's attention so you can get some response from you all would be that this brick would be the same type of brick in color and style all the way through, so it wouldn't be independent. And it would also, if you look at the side elevation, the brick is then brought back into the side of the dwelling.
right.
And brings down. So I thought it looked more consistent to have it all one. but I wanted to make sure that the board was thinking in that term.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
That's all right to me.
The only, I guess, like 2 questions. So what's the setback here? I mean, how close are you to the road? I guess that was my question. It's hard to tell, but.
What's the speed limit in front of that?
45.
If it's 45 in front of there, and maybe they need to make those piers, like real piers, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than just token, visual piers, make them.
Yeah. Like, for example, I'm interested exactly where this, please forgive me when I don't know exactly where this property is. Is this Green, one of these roads Green
Yeah,
Road?
we're directly across from the castle.
Is the castle to the right or the left?
It's to the left.
Left.
Okay, so you're further down.
Yeah, I know where that is.
That's right there.
Yeah, there is a lot of traffic there.
And how far from, I've made this comment in the past before on Arnold Mill.
15.
We won't be the ones widening Arnold Mill, but somebody will. The state will eventually. So in consideration of what the future will bring for that area, how much distance has been allowed for expansion of 140?
I'm not aware of any reserve right now on 140, but we can check.
I mean, I'm worried about.
Yeah,
I'm worried about the fact it's not a matter if it's going to happen; it's a matter of when.
Right.
It will happen.
it's in a plan.
And so, so the reality is, if you build inside that space, which I'm sure you're allowed to do, but then the cost of widening 140 becomes.
The setback from the property line would be 15 feet.
Wow, that's close.
So, I mean, if there was some sort of
If you
reserve or something, then I'm sure that will come up because it's
It wouldn't start until the reserve,
it's a
that
line.
15 feet wouldn't start until wherever that reserve would be.
But if you think about, that's a really busy road, right? So if I look at that road in comparison to other developments I've seen that are near like a busy road, so if you go down to Sandy Springs, right, and you see some townhomes, that would be a good example of another busy area. Sitting these on the first floor without being elevated up, off, you know what I'm saying, step up, so that you're not like right at the road level. I'm just, if you're going to build them there, I mean, I have a concern that it's so close anyways, but that's a different issue. But I'm just saying from, looking at, from a design and a purchasing perspective, I don't know, that would be a concern I would have. And from a design perspective, the one thing looking at this, if I look at that middle section, you've got left, right, and then the yellowish in the middle, that just seems off. I mean, it seems like having the entry over here looks, I don't know, it looks strange. I mean, to me, it seems like it should be more in the middle to break up the other 2 side doors for visual effect.
Okay.
To me, having the door over there looks like a salt box. That looks more New England to me versus, the whole look and feel we're trying to get, which the other 2 have more, looks to me coastal Carolina almost, where the middle almost looks like a salt ball. It's just because where the door is, I think. Because the door being over there, it's just not breaking up the space. But, I mean, I'm okay with the wall. It's just, I would say, just for the whole development being that close, I would have a huge concern because I've seen those developments and I know they're up. I mean that they do that for a reason. That's to get so they're not traffic level. But
This is a 3-story townhouse, and because of the dip in the land, that's why it looks like a 2-story townhouse from the front side, because the land does drop significantly from the Arnold Mill Road to the actual community street.
But you're okay.
it's
So
dropping off
you're
elevation.
saying that the entrance is not at road level? Is that what you're
It's
saying?
on the back side. So if you flip to the next sheet, actually 2 sheets over, you'll see a section, and you'll see how the road drops from the front side. This is the Arnold Mill side, and then this is the community side.
So the rear of your buildings are facing,
The rear, it's kind of four-sided architecture because we wanted the people that are interior to the community to feel like they're arriving home, because quite honestly, that's the side that they're always going to be seeing. So we wanted it to look and feel like the front of the house, no matter if you're on the front side or the rear side of the house. The side that you see from Arnold Mill, quite honestly, will probably seldom be used as an entrance. It's more for just the visual entrance feeling. The rear entrance is most honestly the one that's going to be used most of the time.
That's where the garages are. Right?
Okay.
That's where the garages are as well. Yeah.
Is there any way that, I understand you have a stream buffer on the back side of the property, you know, if there was a way to, you know, push that all back and maybe come up with maybe a 15-foot variance on the back buffer just to push this whole thing back off the road? I wonder if that could work.
If I may, my name's Dean Coward. I'm the proposed developer for the site. Live at 6365 Stallion Drive in Cumming. To answer your question about sliding it back, the site has a significant topography issue where it does drop from Arnold Mill Road, and the concept of when I brought it to Milton to propose the townhome project, the concern I had was, as Georgia addressed, was that there was a health and safety issue with the door opening up and someone being, you know, the child or the pet getting out. And we've been through a couple of iterations with staff regarding our site placement, and according to the feedback I'm getting from staff, the siting placement is appropriate. But when we proposed the courtyard, that particular aspect was a little bit different from what the Crabapple Form-Based Code suggests we use, and that's where we were encouraged to come by and speak with y'all to confirm that not doing the board fencing that would not provide quite the safety that we would be seeking, that the pierced wall would. We do have the proposed right-of-way where the project will be out of the Georgia DOT right-of-way that will be down there, running along Arnold Mill Road. But from a standpoint of sliding the project back, I don't know that we could effectively do that. The code encourages us to engage the road. The code wants us to bring the product to the street and make it more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, but
and that was the direction that we were given.
That's not a pedestrian favorable
pedestrian.
street. I mean,
eventually the hope would be that
it's like Highway 9.
You know, it would be different if we were developing all of this land down that corridor at one time along the 140 corridor. I'm not opposed to the fence. I'd like details about the fence and the way it's really going to look. As far as how it's laid out, quite frankly, Bob, you'll be better at that than I would be. So, I mean, I've never I do realize that there's some topography issues because I live over there and drive by it, but you'd be better at that than I would, or that probably anybody on the board. So I would just ask you to continue to work with our city architect so that we can come up with the best plan that we've got. We appreciate the fact that you took the time to talk to us about the wall. You know, the four-board fence wall, I think a four-board fence it's a nice product for what it is, but that is a different area. It's going to be a different area of our community. And so adding something that adds something interesting to look at when you drive down the road is probably not such a bad idea. So having new and unique ideas is not something we want to make prohibitive or resistant to. It's just that. I mean, I've seen lots of those fences in my lifetime growing up where I did. I think they're pretty cool. They last a long time. They will not serve any kind of ability to stop the impact of an automobile, but it will keep a pet in, and it will look attractive, and it's going to come down to how you mortise your buildings and how you tile that look in. not to make it look so new, would be my concept.
Well, I guess that raises another question, is that, if they choose to put it on top of the road and the fence does have to have a safety component to it, then maybe the piers have to be real piers.
See, I think it's the opposite direction. I think that, I think it is prohibitive to make those piers so solid on the cars themselves. And they want you to slow them down, but they don't want you to have somebody running 45 miles an hour hit one of those concrete piers and then stop and kill them. The only reason I'm saying that's because of my own wall that I have, but
Unfortunately, I've been through a brick wall before with my car, and they do collapse pretty easily.
they do. And
Yeah.
so, and so I'm not real sure where we're going with this, other than the fact that not to kid ourselves to think we're getting extra safety from a brick wall that's got holes in
Not
it.
so much the cars hitting the structure, because they're just going to go through anyway, but it's more the children and the pets running
Right.
out to a busy street.
I agree. Sidewalk on the outside of the wall or on the inside of the wall? Is it going to be a sidewalk on this?
It would be outside.
Outside the wall.
Outside the wall, with the gate on the wall that you have to open to get to the
Yeah, the
side.
kids can't crawl through the fence, through the wall like they could the fence. So
Correct, yeah.
That's
The hole would be there.
I just have some quick questions for the applicant. I just want to make sure I get it straight.
Okay.
Does the wall stop at where the units end? Or does the wall continue along the entire property line that's fronting Green and Ornell Mill?
That was my question.
Okay.
That's why I asked the question about the sidewalk. So he's already saying that the sidewalk is on the outside. So if the sidewalk's part of the general community versus that collective community, then I would assume, are your entrance into this, are you going to incorporate the entrance with this type of wall structure or some design that complements these?
Well, there is actually, you'll see that, because the whole site plan and LDP process will come before you again.
Right.
And you'll see the entrance monument, how it's coordinated with
Okay.
the unit number one's courtyard wall.
Right.
And the,
Then you're on the same page we are.
Yes.
We just got to see a collective picture, and seeing the big picture will be the ultimate thing for us. And the clearer you can define it, the better it goes for us.
Sure, and it was important for us to get a flavor of what you thought about the concept of the courtyards before we really committed a lot of resources to developing that concept. So you've helped us a great deal.
Well, our whole idea is this is a way to vet these kinds of projects, for the public to be able to give their comments and for you to be able to listen to what we're looking for. And the thing I can strive to tell you the most, work with our city architect as much as possible to come up with a viable product that A, will sell well, B, kept well long-term. Like the windows, the doors, like all the little trim pieces on the wood, we're looking for, either hardy plank or the acrylic type product that's there.
Detail.
The details. So we're looking for those details. And the question that we always ask as a board when we're trying to look through these projects is what we're really looking at is, this may look good today, but how will it look 10 years from now or 15 or 20 years from now? Because the public is not going to take as good a care of it as we might think they would or should. So try to build in as much, make it easy on the end consumer as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
On that, I would push those back. I agree with Ed.
Okay.
Yeah, and, because I think you're
I
cramming.
don't think that's a great idea
and
to have it
take-
jammed up on the
no.
road where it's 45 miles an hour right in front of their house. I mean, that's.
And that
dangerous.
side, where they're cramming these three, I think I would take off one. I just think I've seen that cramming before. It never works in the long run. Because we had it over here. But it's just,
Final review?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready down to final reviews, which is our City Hall in Crab Apple, Mr. Brian Parker.
Before Brian gets up here, I want to say a couple words. I'm
Joe Lockwood, and my address is 13,000 Deerfield Parkway. It's an honor here tonight to represent the city on our new City Hall project. I want to thank Cooper Carey, Councilmember Bill Lusk is here. He was involved in the process. Our staff, our city architect, obviously a couple other council members, Rick Morrigan and Matt Koontz are here. But I just want to say, I want to appreciate what you guys are doing. I'm a little nervous being here on the other side, but appreciate everything you guys are doing. I appreciate the team and everything that everybody has done on this project. I'm excited because I think most people, everybody I've talked to agrees. If you look at the building that we propose to build for our city hall, it looks Milton-esque, if you want to call it. It doesn't look like your typical city hall. Obviously, everybody's going to know it's our city hall, but it's got a warm feel. It's attractive, I think, to the community, and will draw the community. And I just want to thank our design team on that. I think they've really hit the mark there on that. So we're excited. But thanks to everybody that's put in a lot of hard work. And then I'll turn it over to Brian to make the actual presentation.
Hey, Joe. Do you mind if we grab a water out of the refrigerator?
You know what? Tonight the water's on me. Diet Coke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brian Parker with Cooper Carey Architects, 2920 Sherburne Drive, Alpharetta, Georgia. We're excited. Tonight's an exciting night. I want to thank the members of the board. I also want to thank our colleagues at the City of Milton that we've worked with for many, many months to develop this project. But really also the citizens of Milton, the City Council and the Mayor, who have all been a part of the process of getting to where we are today to present to you folks. It is an exciting project because it's a project for the city. It's for the members of this community. And so all of the decisions that we've made in our numerous meetings with City Architect Bob Buscemi have really been to drive this project toward the creation of something that the members of the community will be attracted to and utilize. It's really for them. So with that, I really want to just kind of tell the story of the project and how we got to where we are today. Maybe. Bless you. Oh, here we are.
There we go.
Yes. Okay. So we'll start at 30,000 feet, and everybody's familiar with sort of the central node of Crabapple, which really becomes the heart of the community of Milton, and that's the piece of land that the city acquired for the project. So we'll move forward a slide here, and we'll continue to zoom in. So you see the main crossroads here in Milton. If you'll go one more, please, you'll begin to see the major intersections that form the central community zone in downtown Milton. And so you'll see our site come into view. And we'll go again. Oh, did we miss one? No, one more. Sorry. So we look at the form-based code and the zoning for the site, and you can see our site indicated there, and it's well within that zoning parameter of the civic space that this Milton City Hall will be. So let's look at a little more detail of what's currently out there. Many of you are familiar with the Old Blind Dog development, which is just to the lower side of this image. So we're back in what is now currently a detention pond that is taking water really from everywhere to the east and southeast and moving toward our site, which is currently holding it in detention, and then moving it off to the northwest into some ponds that are in the adjoining neighborhood. So if we overlay the existing grading, again, it's very easy to see that there's a big hole out there right now. And so this is really interesting for civic architecture because here we take a piece of land that is currently detention, and we're going to utilize it in a way that is going to become beneficial to the community. And we're doing that through an innovative process of gathering that stormwater and handling it in a different way, which we'll talk about in a moment. So we really need to understand context. Everything that's really constructed in Milton has a great sense of history and contextual nature to it, this project certainly is the leader in that, we hope. So let's kind of look at what's surrounding the site and get a better understanding of what helped influence massing and scale and so forth. So off to our west is a neighborhood, and you can really see from some of these images the hole that is out there, the detention pond. If we look to our southeast, we again see what we discussed a minute ago, the old blind dog development. Some really great use of detail, great project with brick and color and detail, and so we're gracious to be a neighbor. And we've got our adjacent townhomes, the brick sort of row houses that are adjacent to the site, which change scale from the 1 and 2 story residential neighborhoods that surround the City Hall site. But more than that, we also have just Milton in general. So here's a kind of overview of just a number of projects that you see around town. Broadwell Pavilion, a newer one for the city, but the general vernacular that is Milton, and starts to create the character of what this new City Hall should reflect. But there's history here as well. So you'll see an image that the council brought to us, which was of the old Milton Community Courthouse that was in Milton County at the time. And there's a great deal of historic reference here in terms of detailing, in terms of brick, in terms of window proportions that we can utilize to help give our brand new project a feeling and reflection of the past. So we want to look at the proposed site condition and how the building is situated on our current detention pond and how we're dealing with that. So if we overlay what is the new City Hall site, you'll see that the project is accommodating to form-based code as it sits along a road, which I'd like to kind of talk about a little bit more here. There's a new road, and it was actually a project that was let on October 16th, where the new basic bend in what is Brandon Trail will be hooked around to the north. And so that new road actually creates now what is the site boundary of the new City Hall site, and then opens up for development on the the eastern side now of that new road. So with the form-based code, we wanted to obviously make sure that this project was very much forward-facing to the citizens of Milton. So it's right along this new road, very, very prominent and forward-facing, and it's really composed of 3 sort of distinct buildings. And what's interesting, I think, about that architecturally, when we see it in 3 dimensions, you understand a sense of scale change between the buildings. It looks like something that might have been created over time, kind of an assembly of different scales, and I think it helps really fit in with the context of the community around it, and certainly the neighborhoods as we change scale from very low to a 2-story piece and back down. So we have a 2-story administrative building, which is on the southern end of the site, and there's a smaller public works portion that we'll look at in a little more detail that's a little bit lower scale. And adjoining that is the new council chambers, and then separated by a community plaza, there's a community building as well, which is a smaller historical reference building for the community to come and utilize for activities. So how did we get to where we are? How did we site the building? How did we situate access? How did we come up with this site plan and this concept? So I've just sort of bulleted some items here. Of course, we have the form-based code, working very closely with the members of the City of Milton and the city architect. We wanted to make sure we were close to the road and we really had a presence. But we also wanted to try to be as far from those residences as we could. So situating the parking and the landscaping as a buffer between the residential properties and the new building was important. We wanted to change the massing of the building. So we wanted to step the scale from a lower level on up to the 2-story element and then back down so that our scale, as we connected from the community neighbors up and throughout to the north of the site, really helped kind of create that topography of the building. And we really wanted everything to be open, very open to the community. So what we mean is the plaza and its connection to the sidewalks, the movement of people from the neighborhoods, the adjoining property. Everything was made to direct people through the plaza and really kind of create this open sense of inviting community space. And again, this project has been before the neighbors. They've seen it. They've been a part of it. The mayor, the city council. So it's a project that's had a lot of history already. So we want to talk about the site and really how it plays into access and moving toward the different building elements. And we brought members of our team with us today. So I'd like to invite Meg Roby, who's with our landscape architecture group, to come forward, and she's going to help kind of walk us through the site and how it's situated and put together.
Hey there, I'm Meg. I'm going to talk about the site. You can go back one sec. The site and the hardscape ideas. As you can see, we've got the parking lot here. We have a double dumpster and a sidewalk up at Lacoma Trace that is adjacent and brings you down into the plaza area. There's 4 handicap parking spaces up near the back entrance. And we can move on to the grading plan. Basically, the water from the surrounding roads and the adjacent residential area comes into the site and pinpoints kind of in that parking lot island and then is drained and discharged off the site. Next. Richard Owens is here to talk about the landscape for the site. You want to come up and talk about that?
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, board. As I will confidently say to you that what you have in front of you is the most appropriate civic building north of the river. And it is a special place, just as Milton is a unique and special place that is not like everything else. The landscape is the same way. The spaces in the plaza that Meg has developed are places where people want to be. And the planting that defines that landscape expresses that as well. The landscape is exciting in the selection of the plants. It's not like every place else. There are no green meatballs here that will create a stagnant landscape that looks like everything else. The development of the design is to be interesting throughout the year. Every season has something happening. And the fall color of the trees is also strategically placed so that there's a tapestry of fall color that comes through with the seasons, and there are trees that will exhibit fruit for bird activity and that sort of thing. There's an expression in the plant selection to define what Milton is and where Milton is, so that the majority of the plants are native plants, and they express where we are in terms of oaks and maples and trees that you would find if you walked in the woods on the edge of some of our horse pastures. And also it's important to note that there's a selection of oak trees because there's a system here that will be cyclical in terms of attracting birds as well as butterflies, because the plants are selected that will also serve as hosts for the caterpillars so that they'll produce more butterflies. The birds will come and eat the caterpillars. And you'll have an interesting landscape here that complements the spaces that Meg has designed, as well as allow the building to present itself without hiding it. And that's a general overview of what we have. There's another item there worth noting, which will be between the site. It's on the upper portion of that drawing along that line. There will be a fence line along the entirety of the junction between the site and the houses there. So it will be an appealing fence that is designed to contain a cable and a wire system at the top, so that 4 different vine selections will be grown on that fence. Those vines will be, the majority of them are evergreen, and they will have different flowers on them at different times during the growing season, so that something exciting is happening on this property throughout the year. It creates an environment where the staff and the city, those people who are engaged in city business, those people who serve with the city and come to be there, will go away thinking about something they saw that they normally wouldn't see elsewhere. And that will include things like bulbs in the spring that will be surprises that will grow out of some of the ground cover beds at the entrances, as well as some of the ornamental grasses. Because there were specific requests made by the city through their wisdom and vision not to create places that would require a lot of change out of annual flowers, and to create a presentation of plants that wouldn't have to be maintained throughout the year. They wouldn't have to be clipped. They have space to grow the way they want to be. The plants that are here will present to you something that you want to see. And the next stage in the presentation will be Meg's descriptions in more detail of how those spaces have been put together in the hardscape and what those elements are. Thank you.
So the idea for the plaza was that we wanted it to be a place that we could bring the community in. We talked about farmers market or festivals, and also a place for employees to be able to go outside and take a break or have lunch. So I came up with this concept of kind of breaking the plaza down into rooms. On the right side of the slide is the front room or front door to the plaza, where there would be 3 flagpoles and a space for, potentially a commissioned piece of art. And that smaller space to the left would be just a more intimate place with tables and chairs, and you would have the trees from Richard's landscape plan and those tree wells there kind of breaking up each room. The middle area would be more of your free-flowing space where people could come out and sit, or that's where you'd have your tents for the festivals and the farmers market. And the paving concept is that it would all be concrete, but each room would have its different manipulation of what you can do to standard concrete. So the front one would be just your standard broom swept and window paned, tooled joints. The smaller spaces would be an exposed aggregate, saw cut joints. So just your standard concrete, but to add variety and texture, manipulate it in different ways. And then each entry into the building would have entry pavers to kind of signify the entrance. You come to the entrance of the building, and each walkway up to the entrance would have bands of exposed aggregate concrete to kind of get you there and visually get you to the entrances of the buildings.
Thank you. So let's talk more about the architecture of the buildings themselves. We've got our material palette here on the screen, but obviously digitally materials don't show as well as the real thing. So we've staged all of the real materials over here for the council's viewing, the board's viewing. But the key, I think, here is a sense of longevity. Being a municipal project, we really want to design a 50-year building. And we want to do that in ways that are economic at the time of construction now, but we want to do that in a way that is also looking at life cycle costs for the project. So we look at things like brick. We look at integral color hardy materials that don't require repainting. We look at galvalume roofing, much like the Broadwell Pavilion, and natural materials like Western red cedar, which give you that Milton feel and the sense of natural material as well. We look at window framing systems that are done in high durability coatings in aluminum rather than wood, so we aren't repainting. And we're really just looking at minimal maintenance cycles on the building with things like sealants over time, etc. So it's a sense of pride for the community, but it's also done in a way that is fiscally responsible for the 50-year life cycle of the project. So as we look at the building elevations, we've got a whole array of slides here. So we'll begin with the project from what would be the parking lot point of view. So you've parked your car, and this would be essentially the northwestern facade. And you can see the sense of scale change that we talked about and the assembly of building types to create what is a very interesting city hall. There's certainly vernaculars to the council chambers, which is on the left of this image, that harken back to the courthouse at the old Milton County. And we see the two-story administrative building, which has a sense of scale and integrity as well, with roof forms that are reflective of those of Milton as well. And it steps down in scale on the right-hand side as you begin to approach the neighboring residences, and this houses one of the departments for the city. As we flip the image to the other side, this would be more of the street side. So this is the forward-facing community view of the project. Again, a sense of scale and a change in scale, and you'll see the introduction of a balcony feature, again, that was reminiscent of the old courthouse. We've got a number of details here that have really been developed over time with the help of Bob and the members of the city, really to give the building a strong sense of base, middle, and top, with a great deal of detail in the brick as it's ornate around the windows and between the window modules on each of the sort of structural bays of the building. And then those are reinforced with details up at the cornice line of the building. We've moved around to what would be the plaza side view of the council chambers, with windows and openings that allow the chambers to flow out onto the plaza space. And again, we see detail here of the council chambers with the standing seam galvalume roofs, similar again to Broadwell Pavilion that you've seen. And back on the south side, this is where we see that public works wing stepping down in scale and you know, making sure as we face southwest on this exposure that we have screening on the windows for shading as well. You'll see details of those sort of Bahama shades in this view. And then we look at what is the community building, which we've worked with Councilman Lusk and members of the city to really develop a unique little icon for the city, which will have a very sort of historic reference to it. It's a space for the community to come and gather. It also houses restrooms for the public when they're in the plaza for various events. But it was studied in great detail to make sure that all of its scale and proportion and detailing were that of historic rural Milton structures. On the plaza side here, you see Western red cedar, exposed truss work, columns, and a sense of proportion to the windows that's, again, similar to some of the historic reference photos that we showed earlier. One more view here from the parking lot side and some details. We mentioned briefly the dumpster enclosure, always a fun point of discussion, but again, we brought our similar detailing from the building with sort of base, middle, and a darker cap on it, and paint colors similar to the building as well. So as we look at some aerial views, we want to make sure that we're clear on the sight line studies. The roof lines for the building are actually very much aesthetic, and they create a yard, an equipment yard on the middle of the roof. So we wanted to make sure the board saw that all of our equipment, which is housed on the roof, is actually well below all of our roofscapes. And we've shown some details here of not only the main entrance to what is the vestibule that connects you to both the chambers and the administrative building. We show you some details of the balcony on the upper story of the administrative. And then we have a whole series here of line elevations that we're welcome to look at and discuss as we need, essentially breaking the building back down into all of its various components, scales, sizes, proportions, and details. So that's essentially the summary of the project from beginning to end, how we got to where we were, and it's our pleasure to answer questions. And
Brian, what's the community center, what is the internal structure? Has it been defined yet?
So the community building is built very much like a residential building in terms of concrete slab with a wood frame structure. The interior skin is clad in sort of rough sawn pine boards to really give you that kind of rural aesthetic. On the inside, there's a fireplace which has natural stone and a heavy timber hearth. And then we're simply exposing the wood trusses that support the ceiling above. So very sort of on the Milton vernacular.
So the roof system would be tongue and groove.
Yeah, under the truss system,
right,
would be a tongue and groove decking.
What is the square footage of the community building? How many people do you envision the occupancy of that, the right side of that community building?
So we recently reduced that in scale. Yeah, 750 square feet. Yeah, for the room. So we're under probably 49 people. The square footage of the actual footprint was reduced recently. I think it's somewhere around, Bob, do you remember 1,400 square feet, I think?
We're trying to maintain that community space under 50, because at 50 and above, you go into an assembly space, and there's a lot more rules that the building code applies and fire code. So it's just nice.
So it's purposefully that size.
It's a nice size. I think it's got a nice look and feel to it on the inside. It's got enough glazing and interior windows. There's a double door entry from the plaza, and the theory is on the use end that we would open up those doors and have events occurring, and the people can utilize that structure. They could also then, right across from it, you got that opening to the council chamber with the two double doors, so you can open that up. So the council chamber could be used for events, and they could spill out onto the plaza and then spill into this community building.
It's a great concept.
Yeah, and strategically, the way we've got it laid out is when the general public comes in on a daily basis to pay their taxes or whatever they need to do and interact with the city, maybe getting permits or whatever they want to come to the building for. When they walk into the building, and if they look to the left, they will look right through the chamber, which is all got glazing in glass on the internal sections of the lobby. So you look right through the chamber, right into the plaza, and then you see this historical building as a bookend.
That's pretty
so
cool.
I think it's going to have some great views from inside the building as well as from outside the building. And they've concentrated more on the exterior views, but we've studied with the architectural team all these interior views as well. So when you're in the building, you're seeing all these buildings on the exterior. And you kind of get a sense of where you are in the building and how it relates to the site. I think phenomenal job on achieving all of these requirements that we've placed on them.
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, on the second floor with the balcony, whose office is that going to be?
Well, the balcony is actually off of the main executive conference room.
Oh, I thought Chris Lagerbloom would lay claim to that one. Did you see that coming?
Yeah, that discussion occurred. So, and we were mindful of that. I don't want any offices with balconies. So there's not even a door that enters the balcony. Doors to it are from the public area and the conference room.
For the record.
For the record.
But I think the balcony gives the building a nice
Yeah, that's
feel.
nice. It does. It is nice.
It's a good sense of negative space within the massing, and it gives it a nice feel from inside the building as well. And it relates to the street. It's got a lot of nice elements, got all the brackets on the bottom. The railings would be nice and heavy. The color of the railing would match the color of the window frame, so it won't just be a black. So we've gone through and in great depth, have spent many, many hours looking at the color schemes, looking at the building materials and how everything is related. Down to the detail, the board and bat, the architects are detailing all the board and bats and actually dictating where those little bats are so that they're not just haphazardly placed, you know, they've sort of got a logic to them. So down to the smallest detail, we are looking at this building and really working with the design team to get everything addressed, including the life cycle, which I know this board is very concerned about.
Well, bringing that subject up, I want to bring something up publicly so that Bob can look into it. On the mechanical side of the building, I know you probably did an energy audit on the building.
Yes, we just got our energy model complete on Friday of last week, and we've compared the building to 90.1 ASHRAE baseline standard, and we've exceeded it by 22.1%.
Okay.
So,
having said that,
yes, sir.
That's an important feature. However, one of the things I would like to ask for us to do, to look at, is putting in for having Cooper nickel coated coils on our outside units and our coils on, they'll all be package units, I assume, on this building, but the Cooper nickel, you lose a little bit of efficiency, but you gain an enormous amount of lifespan. And I don't know if you've even heard of it or if you know what I'm talking about. But.
Yeah, we're utilizing a VRF system for the project, which is an innovative method of delivering HVAC to a municipal building like this. So we were excited to see our energy numbers come back the way they were, but specifically with regard to that type of coating on the coils, no.
Well, you lose about 10% of your EER, but it adds about 7 to 8 years worth of lifespan to the coils themselves. And you'll notice a lot of the buildings, especially buildings that I've worked on in Atlanta, that they've been mandated that we have to use that. And though I didn't want to use it because it was more expensive than it was to buy.
Ask about the cost.
The cost is more. However, the maintenance cost, when you do the study on the cost of it itself, it is a big number, the savings. So I would like for us to at least to look at it to see, Bob, if you would.
We will look into it. We did ask the design team to, we'll look into it. Yeah, we'll look into that.
We'll look into
We
that.
did ask the design team to meet at least the 20% above ASHRAE 90.1 standards, which they've exceeded. And so we've looked at that. We've also incorporated a great number of sustainable elements in the design. So we are looking, it's not LEED, we're not looking to achieve a LEED certification for this particular structure, but we've met a lot of them where when we did the LEED scorecard, we're pretty much at a certified level.
Great.
So we are making sure that we look at that continuously throughout the project.
Good. Okay. Any comments from the board?
It looks really nice.
Yeah, it looks terrific. I guess one thing I thought of, and our first impression before this presentation was, are there, and you brought it up, are there good ways to make sure it's leading us into where the entranceways are? And I think, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Maggie. There's going to be different stonework that kind of shows the where the walkways are into the building, where the entrances are?
The idea is that all the entrances would open out into a paver field, and the walkways leading to the entrances kind of had the exposed aggregate bands to kind of eye you that way.
Yeah. I guess that's the verbiage. I didn't know how to express it, but yeah, the
It's that
eyeing of,
visual
okay, where do
connection.
I walk if I'm walking up to this building to go in?
Right. Yeah.
the design team's put a lot of emphasis on the entrances. There's a front and rear entrance that the code requires. And the employee entrance has actually been very much downplayed. So there's a very standard, small little employee entrance off to the side. So there'd be no confusion by the general public or community coming to the site knowing exactly where the entrance to the building is. It's very prominent. It's emphasized by the landscape and by the plaza material itself.
Yeah, I think between the architecture, the landscape, and the hardscape, there's a very clear definition of where the front door is to
Right.
the city hall.
And that's emphasized also by the lighting, because at night, in the winter times, the light. So we've placed lighting in strategic areas that it will illuminate those entrances as well, and downplay the other areas, just for security.
Signage.
Signage is the same thing. We're starting to show some signage. If you look at the front entrance, the front elevation, you can start to see we have a dedicated area for signage, and that's where we'll be placing signs. Then there'll be wayfinding signs throughout the community to get you there. We're looking at that as well. So we're really looking at signage as a whole, not just getting within the site, but getting you to the site.
All right. Any public comment? I don't see any public comment, so would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the City Hall presentation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a new City Hall. Thank you.
When's it going to be finished?
Yeah.
Are you done yet?
We see a construction timeline at this point when it would have us taking over the building in February of 2017. We have to occupy without any certainty because we lose this building in April of 2017.
Great.
Okay.
So, I announced to the council last night, so I'll say it. I said it publicly, so I'll say it here publicly as well. Is that we're shooting right now for some sort of a groundbreaking on December the 1st, which would be the city's 9th anniversary of existing as a city. So it would seem like that's a good celebration type event to occur on December the 1st.
Thank you.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. Next, old business. Anybody got any old business? Bob, Angela? Okay. Any new business?
I'll say dinner.
Yeah, you coming?
Depends on when you schedule it.
We'll schedule it around to make sure you guys can come. So, we want to go. He had recommended, we hadn't really decided where to go. The place I go, and how can you think of it? Downtown Italian, the little tan house. What's that place? La Casa.
Where's that?
That's where I would like to go, but I'm
Used
only
to be
one
Council
person.
Offender. Across
Yeah.
the street from me.
I know
Tell me
that
where we
is.
can go and
I've
go.
never been
See you, Matt.
Good luck. If you look at, we've got all sorts of great restaurants in Milton, but I've had, so if you were looking for something that could be set up for a group for one evening, I've had good luck at the Union, which has a very good Milton feel to it.
Union's awesome.
Where is it?
Providence.
Yeah, right there, Freemanville and Providence. It
I won't
always
have to
has-
drive far.
You don't have to drive far.
Yeah, Union.
That'd be good.
Of course, we can help you get the patios at any of the restaurants if you wanted 850 or the Blind Dog or Vintage or any of those in the Crabapple area. We could help you with. Just think of what kind of food you want. We'll keep you in town somewhere.
Union's good for me.
Union's fine with
That
me.
works for me.
Okay, do y'all want to pick a date?
Sure.
You're the lone female on this board, so I'm going to let you pick the date.
It's too much pressure.
I don't ever get to pick gender as a reason to authorize somebody to make a decision. So,
Well, I'm doing it because she's the only one that's different than the rest of us, and so women are always right. So she'll do
Are you
better.
looking at November or
Don't
December?
ever. My husband would never say that.
Are you looking in November or December?
Yeah. What are you looking?
November. I do have to say, though, I will be out of town to Colorado the first week. I'm leaving Saturday and be back Thursday.
This coming week.
Yes, of the coming week.
Of November or December?
Yes, November. So I'm leaving this Saturday. I'll be back next Thursday.
So you want
So
to
the
keep
first-
it in November?
Yes, I would like to keep it November.
Want to do it on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, how about that? The Tuesday after that.
17th?
Yeah, 17th works.
17th would work.
That works for me. So we have the 17th at Union.
Union?
We're officially,
What time?
6 o'clock.
let's do 6 o'clock.
We'll have to publish it for you. So Angela, you writing all this down?
Right.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll publish it for you, and you
And
don't
I-
anticipate there to be an agenda nor business to be discussed, and no votes will be taken.
There'll be no votes taken, there'll be no agenda, and we'd like to invite you and Kathy and Angela and Bob and all those that work with us, and Mark.
Mark?
Everybody who works with us, we would like for them to come.
Perfect. If I don't have to be at the BZA that night, I'll be there, and I don't think I do, so that's great.
Right, is that the third?
17th.
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 Yeah, I won't be able to be there.
You can be there?
No, I have the BZA, thank you.
How about
Oh.
Wednesday night?
How about Wednesday
Well, then
night?
do Wednesday. Do the
It's the day
18th.
before Thanksgiving, and we don't have council on the 23rd
No,
because it's
no, that's
the
the
Monday.
week.
Thanksgiving's the
Week
26th.
before.
The week
That's the week
before.
before.
Week before.
Oh,
So you want to
perfect.
do the 18th?
18th.
18th.
18th?
Yeah.
Are you okay with the 18th?
Works good.
How about you, Mark?
Wednesday, the
18th.
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 Wednesday the 18th,
6 p.m.?
6 p.m. Union.
That's good.
We're gonna get them to reserve an area?
We'll make that call tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
make a reservation.
Good deal.
Yep.
Then, since we've dealt with that, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you
You'll
very
notify
much.
the board members that are on there?